it was a difficult debut. It was a difficult course, but I think that event really solidified the bond and our love for the sport.
Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 110 of the show.
110?
Yeah, seems like 10 episodes ago we were at 100.
Yeah, it does.
Started off in a really bad way. Anyway, everyone, Partners Month continues this week with our friends John Brandershort and Addison Nuding, A.K.A. the Kanchō Bōyz. They're a team based in Colorado, and one that we can directly credit to their organization to our constant efforts, i.e. us nagging them. Their first event was Orcas Island, long course, and that should tell you all you need to know about their mettle. More on this interview later in the show. But first,
training update. So, Swimrun Lake James is now coming up just in 10 weeks. And we're following the program as the weeks cut down. We've got some swimrun practices coming soon. A nice little stay, if you will, of swimrun practices since Catalina. We could push out another week or two. But we're still, we've been enjoying the hills, the trails and the hills. They pay the bills. That's why we keep hitting them hills.
Yeah, and it's working. It's working.
Yeah. We have a couple loops that we regularly go on and constantly blazing it up with PRs and
helicups
on Strava.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, these are trails we've done a lot, over the years.
Yeah, it's like so 15 efforts, 20 efforts on these. So
still getting PRs on stuff. That's good. Also a sign that, we're sort of absorbing the training on the hill. So too bad there's no, Run Like 3 that we've been optimizing for 2 months, but that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. I've also been training my, Chris can attest to the amount of nutrition I've been training to force down my gullet like a foie gras goose. My trunk of my car is littered with gel wrappers.
As long as you're not littering.
Yeah, no, not littering for sure. But yeah, trying out a bunch of different ones. Anywho.
That's
on
great, dude.
To this week's shout-outs.
All right, this week we're shouting out our newest patron on Patreon, Scott Turner. His name should sound familiar. He's been shouted out before for, I think, both being super stoked on Swimrun and then again for hooking us up with homemade jam and honey from his family farm when we met up at Casco Bay last year.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
It was very good.
It's all gone at our house.
It's long gone.
Long gone.
That didn't even last to Orcas.
Anyway, Scott, we love you, appreciate your support, and look forward to seeing you at a race soon, man.
Thank you, Scott. Now for this week's Feats of Endurance. So this week's winner is Ray Conboy. He posted a workout with a title that hits close to home for Chris. And I've seen this. If you follow Chris on Strava, Ray's title on his Strava, Chill Old Man Yoga.
Yeah.
Chris was feeling seen.
Definitely.
So Ray and Chris have some sort of old man yoga situation going on with themselves.
Yeah,
I should get into.
I've been trying to do this.
Well.
I've been trying to do this morning flow like once a week, and
this
I keep
keeps you limber.
I keep saying this is the year that I'm gonna have a consistent yoga practice, and I mean I've lasted 5 weeks, so so far so good. But
namaste.
Yeah, 30 minutes in the morning, once a week.
Nice, probably good for the body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to see what all the other swim runners are doing besides chill old man yoga or crazy trail runs like the Low Tide Boys up in Novato, head on over to Strava, search Low Tide Boys, and join the 380-something people that are in that group and dole out kudos and receive them.
Yeah.
So much good fun there. Now, for a jam-packed This Week in Swimrun.
Yeah, so we're definitely back at the LTB News Desk this week. Last Thursday, if most people probably knew this was going on, A.K.A. announced the results of the ranking application slots for the 2022 edition of A.K.A. the Swimrun World Championship. Congrats to all the teams that qualified. We wish you a safe and healthy training block and look forward to seeing you all there. Wink, wink. More on this later in the show. Special shout out to the 8 U.S. teams that qualified on Thursday.
Woo-hoo.
Team Adorkable, Tristan Amy, the Zaddies, Marcus and Lee, Team Envol Baywatch, Beacon Blake, Team Radcat, Judy and Matthew Davenport. Boston Red Sox for their victory at Malta.
Yes, they were assigned there.
Yeah,
they were assigned there.
They got it.
They didn't have to qualify.
They didn't have to wait like we did. Team at Batman Parents, Liz and Jacob, and California Swimrun, Mel Bartow and Andy, the Godfather Hewitt, also known as the Father.
Mm-hmm.
In other news, our friends at Swimrun Portugal announced the dates to all 7 of their 2022 events. Registration is opening soon, so stay tuned for that. All their races just look dope.
7 races in Portugal.
Dope.
Wow. Nice.
Anyway, over in the UK, Mad Hatter Sports Hokey Cokey Swim Run in St. Austell Bay in Cornwall is coming up on May 21st. Registration is open now for both their short course and long course distance options. And if you heard last week's episode with Bill and Chrissy, they were
Mr.
talking.
and Mrs. B.
Yeah, they were talking about this Hokey Cokey Swim Run and how cool these events are. So definitely piqued my interest.
And we had some of our UK fans checking in saying, well, Bill and Chrissy are going to be there. I got to go.
Yeah, so
we
maybe
know.
check it out.
Yeah, go register for Hokey Cokey Swim Run there.
Yeah, I mean, just for the
Cornwall.
name, you know? Like, oh, where are you going to do the swim run? Cornwall. In the bummer portion of the news, Brecca Swim Run had to postpone both its 2022 Brecca Wanaka and Brecca Bay of Islands races due to New Zealand COVID restrictions. The race directors are as bummed as the participants, and they thank the swimmer community for their support and understanding during these unprecedented times. That's it for this week, but feel free to reach out and let us know if there's anything you'd like for us to mention on the show.
Yes, on to Low Tide Boys updates.
Before you go on,
okay,
should we say, it's probably a lot of foreshadowing. Is this like the biggest update we've ever had to make?
I think this is the update that I think people probably care the most about. And we were we're excited for. But
Definitely.
We have officially qualified for the 2022 edition of A.K.A, the Swim Run World Championship.
Wild.
It happened. We made it in.
I was super anxious, and it turned out to be pretty. Like
we weren't even the last one on the list.
We weren't last.
We were just right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that. But I mean, Chris and I are so overwhelmed, and we just wanted to send a huge thank you out to everyone who reached out. I mean, the whole day, our phones were just blowing up. Text, emails, DMs.
Totally.
Everyone was shouting us out to congratulate us. Just thank you so much, everybody. We're obviously super stoked to get a slot, and we really look forward to racing this marquee endurance race come September. And if that wasn't enough, we're even more ridiculously stoked to announce that we have our first team sponsor. Frank Paddle is joining as our official swim paddle sponsor of the Low Tide Boys.
Yeah,
So, I know we're laughing, but we have been such big fans of Frederic since we chatted with him all the way back in episode 50, and he's been nothing but cool and kind with us. So we hooked up with Frank and Frank Paddle, or Frederic and Frank Paddle, and he's providing us paddles for A.K.A.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Honestly, this is another one in the many instances in the history of this show where I've been like, I just can't believe that this is kind of what's going on. I mean, Frederic is awesome. We've basically become friends with him since we interviewed him. He's been hooking us up with paddles. And I mean, the conversation was like, hey man, can we just like show you love and just, do you want to like support us? He was all about it. So it was really cool to see. And Frank Paddle, baby.
Yeah. Stoked to have Frank Paddle on board and stoked for what is coming this season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, without any further ado, let's catch up and let's find out what Kancho even means with Team Kanchō Bōyz, John and Addison.
All right, for the next installment of Partners Month, we have the one and only Kanchō Bōyz. Now, before we let them talk, they're on right now, but they can't talk yet. Kanchō Bōyz means the low tide boys in Japanese. There's also a little double entendre there, but this team, I dare say, like, if the goal of our show is to get people into swim run, and when we started this podcast was really to like explain to our friends what the heck we were doing.
Yes.
then I would say the
3 years later, we finally did
Yeah.
it.
I would say, the Kanchō Bōyz becoming a thing and becoming swim runners.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's mission accomplished. So welcome to the show, John Branderhorst and Addison Nuding,
The Kanchō Bōyz.
the Kanchō Bōyz. You guys can
Thank
talk.
you.
You guys can
Thanks.
talk
Oh, is that
Yeah,
okay.
you're-
I guess this is why it's nice to be able to see the person to know, like, your turn.
now. Yeah. Well,
Oh, yeah.
it's okay.
That's all right.
It's all right.
We
So,
appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
yeah, thanks for coming on. Obviously, we know you guys really well, but the swimrun community doesn't know you guys as well as we do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your like athletic background and kind of like how you found swimrun, which obviously is from us, but
Yeah.
but
Besides
in
the
your
Bow Tie
words.
Boys. Take it away, John.
Oh, Addison was just about to kick it off, but all right, here I am. So yeah, my background, I guess, always been into fitness, played sports growing up. Soccer was my sport of choice until my late 20s when I got hurt. And then started doing some running, some triathlon, and that's how I met a lot of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided to kind of like, sail away into the sunset and kind of just focus on doing a little bit every day. And then you guys started doing this. And I'll be honest, during COVID, it's been really nice to think of a new activity to do. And since I had to find a partner, Addison was living with me, so it made it real easy.
Yeah.
But that's the story, I guess.
Okay, so Addison, give us everything before you started living with John.
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah. So similar to John, I grew up in sports and amateur career was spent in wrestling, which is another story for another time, another road trip.
And this is like real, not like WWE.
Yeah,
This is
collegiate wrestling.
This is like
Or did you throw anyone through any tables, or that was strictly prohibited?
Yeah, only a couple walls. Yeah, but after my collegiate career, I started getting into running, and when I moved out to California, I had the pleasure of meeting Chris and John pretty much at the same time when I joined the Golden Gate Triathlon Club, and right from the start, just had an instant community. And that's really what kind of pulled me into triathlons and the endurance community. And also dabbled in some adventure racing and some mountain biking and a lot of other fun activities. So I was always just looking for fun things to do and love doing it with my friends. So how I found Swimrun, I was coaching at a studio. I was a cycling coach at a studio in San Francisco and had heard of one of the coaches signed up for a swim run and traveled over to Sweden. And then, a year or so passed by, and next thing I know, I start seeing swim run activities posted on Strava.
We're spamming your feed with all
my
of our
feed.
activities.
Yeah, you just started blowing me up. And and then it wasn't until I think I was living with John for a short period of time, and we were invited to join you guys, and jumped right on it.
Well, I think there's a little bit more to that story because when I think John was probably a tougher sell than Addison. I think Addison was down for it from the beginning. But I remember Addison, like you sent me a text, it's like, oh, so tell me about Swimrun, and then you started asking all these questions, and I just started sending you like episodes. Like, oh yeah, listen to episode 23, listen to episode 54, and you're like, oh my god, there's so much. Every question you asked, like we had an answer for, which again, it's kind of like mission accomplished from a show perspective. Yeah. For someone who's getting into the sport, but yeah, I mean, I think you were on board from minute one. I think John was like, wait, do I have to swim?
John's very swim adverse.
Yeah. So Addison was super stoked on it. Like, how did you convince John to finally sign up for a race, and not just sign up for a race?
You, Orcas Island is the race, so not like one of the
not a baby
premier harder swim runs out there on the circuit. And you two came right along.
Yeah, it didn't take much effort. I think we kind of surrounded him from all angles,
We did.
and was just persistent with it. Said I was committed 100%, and I needed a partner, and there was no one else I wanted to do it with than John. He just has like tremendous energy, and obviously is super fit, and I know he would be up for it. And I was just looking for a fun experience, and there wasn't anyone else that I wanted to do it with than John.
Aw.
Nice.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's what Partners Month's all about, everybody.
Yeah. Show's over, people. Let's just end on that
That's
note.
a wrap.
After last week's or after the recent longest podcast, this will be the shortest.
Yeah, we're just doing all kinds of stuff.
So we had a big travel caravan out there. We got to hang out for several days in Washington and Orcas Island when we all met up, and it was a really fun time. We
made T-shirts.
We had T-shirts made and everything. I mean, we can't help ourselves. All the listeners of the show know this, but we had a great time out there. And the Kanchō Bōyz came in just 30 minutes behind us on the Orcas Island circuit, which and a very impressive debut. And how did let's get a little play-by-play of your first swim run going up Mount Constitution and Pickett and all the fun.
If I may, can we rewind a little bit? I want to go back to the question you had asked about like what made it somewhat easy for us to like get into it. We had a really nice setup. Yeah. So we live in Colorado,
mm-hmm.
and John and I don't live too far from each other now. I'm up in Boulder. He's down in Golden, and John had a park pass to a local reservoir. And so we made it our summer activity. Every weekend we would partner up, put on our wetsuits in 90-degree scorching heat and run around this park and jump in the reservoir and train. And so we just made it, we made the training activity just like a fun little event that we would do every weekend. So it was a great, encouraging environment. We invited other folks from the community, some other transplants, and yeah, I think it made the transition into the sport much easier.
Sure. Oh, and I should say like outfits, kits provided by the Low Tide Boys.
We were very lucky on that note. Yes.
You guys need gear? Here you go.
Yeah,
Box
I mean
that's
one way to keep me committed, to be honest. And
reduce
so
the barrier to
it
entry.
was nice, but I mean, I'll be honest, it's really hard to train now.
Yeah, definitely hard to train.
Yeah, we had few excuses after we would just get boxes on a weekly basis. Oh, you need a wetsuit.
Yeah.
You need a pull buoy.
But bringing us back to Orcas, Chipper, I really appreciate you kind of like building us up, but let's be honest. The only reason we finished 30 minutes behind you guys was you were having a rough day. Like, I think everybody was surprised. And so while we were happy to finish, right? Like that's a beast of an event.
Yeah.
And I thought Addison and I were, because we were coming from, elevation, I thought, and we have running backgrounds, we'd be fine. But it is a whole different story when you're having to throw in swimming between, and the weather's really, you get cold pretty quick, right? And so I was expecting, like in Colorado, I'd swim, I'd get little chilly, and then I'd start running and I would overheat. I did not have that problem during this race, that's for sure. And I also somehow, some way, 2 days before the event, hurt my foot. I don't even know how I did it, but you guys were there. So it was an interesting first experience, but I love the community. I mean, you guys set us up for success. So let's be honest. We were staying in a house across from the finish line. We were meeting all these great people that you knew. We were just kind of like walking on your coattails, like meeting amazing people.
And the pizza.
And let's not forget the pizza.
Don't forget about the pizza at Orcas.
Yeah, there were a lot of parallels between the Low Tide Boys and the Kanchō Bōyz in that event. John mentioned he suffered a little foot injury, and it was a difficult debut. It was a difficult course, but I think that event really solidified the bond and our love for the sport. There's no point in showing up to an event if you know that everything's going to work flawlessly. I think it's part of the reason why we as athletes do these crazy activities is, you expect obstacles, and like that's part of the beauty of sport is, how you face and then overcome challenges. So I actually really enjoyed that aspect, and it was made even more fun the fact that the event took nearly all day. So
yeah,
we get to just live in this.
Got to enjoy it for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great time at Orcas, and we had a bunch of people come over at staying at the great house that Chris snagged literally right across, like John was mentioning there. And shortly thereafter, you two jumped right into Swimrun Austin in Texas.
That was the most surprising thing to me, because I know John
feels like almost before we left Washington or left Orcas Island, you guys were like, "Oh, we're in for Austin. What are you guys doing next?" You were hooked right away.
Yeah, I mean, and before you guys answer, it's like John is someone who I talk to or text in some capacity, communicate in some capacity, like almost every day. Yeah. And part of me was like, I think he's doing Orcas, so I stopped riding him to do a swim run because I'm super stoked on it. I talk about swim run all the time, and he's he's sort of on the front lines of having to hear between him and my wife and Chipper. They're like on the front lines of swim run talk. So part of me was like, I think he just wants to do it to just try it, see what it's all about, because I'm obviously super into it. But yeah, it was really surprising to me where it's like, oh, you guys are doing Austin. It's like, what's the situation? We're like,
well, the exact opposite of what happened here is what Austin will be like. And yeah, you guys rolled into Austin, snagged a podium spot.
Yeah. Once again, coming in behind us. Also by like half an hour, I think, or 20 minutes or something. I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, so run us through. So you do Orcas, you're like, oh my goodness, that's the thing. And we've mentioned this many times, but anyone who finishes, if you just finish the long course at Orcas, respect. Doesn't matter. Winner, good for you. Finish last, amazing. Everything in between, it's just a really tough course. So you do this tough thing, then you're like, oh, we want to do another one. Like, what was the thought process there?
I don't know if there was. And just to be clear, what's interesting about this, and I think pulling back a little bit, during COVID, I have found circles of friends that I could meet up with at different times to do outdoor activities, whether it was like a mountain biking trip or things like that, right? And Chris and I have not been able to connect on that level, but obviously Chris has been doing kind of the swim run stuff, and I was listening to the podcast with no interest in doing a swim run. Like, let's be honest, I don't like to swim, and nor do I train for it, and I don't know if that'll change. And that's what's interesting about the Kanchō Bōyz, because Addison's the opposite. I have almost 10 years on Addison. He is a collegiate athlete. He is serious about training. I'm 20 minutes a day guy. Like, literally, I will do what I need to do, but I'm out there to have fun. That's why, like, I'm like the guy version of the team of Dorkables. Like, I would listen to them and I'd be like, man, that is amazing. They're having so much fun. I want to replicate that.
So this is the part of, I knew this was coming, Chipper. This is the part of the interview where I have to say, you can't believe anything that John says, because he works out 20 minutes a day, but mentally he is a fortress.
There's quite a reservoir of deep endurance base.
Yes. He and I have done many ridiculous feats of endurance, and I've never worried about his mental capacity to complete anything that he sets his mind to. So anyway, continue with your humbling.
Well, so much of my endurance revolves around a community, right? So a lot of the stuff I do, like endurance races, it's not just me doing. I might be running it or riding or something, but there's always a group of friends that are part of that experience for me. Mm-hmm. So that's been, once I kind of decided I did not want to train to compete, you know what I mean? When I was in my 20s and maybe early 30s, I would train to try and do well. That has shifted to me training to not feel like crap afterwards, but but it's always been around, I wanted to do these things with friends. And so it's the mental side of things is not that bad. Like when I'm having a rough day swim running with Addison, I know Addison's just going to pull me. It's amazing. I have the perfect setup.
Yeah, and Addison's
So-
nickname that we came up with at Orcas was Captain America, which I think is very apt.
That's fair.
It's a good one.
That's fair.
Captain America and dead weight.
I think the counter to that, right, is I have a tendency of being a little over aggressive sometimes, and I can get sucked into my own headspace, and I think the partner event of Swimrun is really conducive to like bringing me out of that that intensity. And so we talked about Orcas Island. John was having a rough day, so the priorities shifted, right? It was, yes, we want to execute our fitness, but I want to check in with my partner because we both have to do well and have fun in order for us to have a good day. And so I really like the dynamic. It's the sport for me, I think, is less about obviously it's not individual for this partner sport, but it's how can we have the most fun? How can we encourage each other, and how can we help one another overcome our challenges? And it's just a completely different dynamic. And yeah, I also want to touch on John understates his athleticism and his feats of endurance. He's he is a beast. He's a workhorse.
Yeah.
I can never doubt his abilities and can always depend on him. So thanks, John.
All right.
The,
Well, I want to bring it back to Austin, guys. I hope you don't mind. But when we were in Austin,
Nice
Addison's kind of
deflection.
talking about how he's competitive, right? What's funny about like keeping him in check in terms of that competitiveness, Addison, the day before the race, how far did you run?
Oh Jesus, yeah, I forgot about it. It was like 12 miles or something.
You ran like a half
in the
marathon the day
Texas heat.
before for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, he was doing a marathon after, so I think he just
He
wanted
was.
to get a little bit of
Yeah.
work in the legs or something.
Yeah, I don't
That
think.
and
I mean,
he knew.
it's I don't think you're fearing the courts, which I think Austin. You have to know how to swim and run, but you don't need to scale anything ridiculous like Mount Constitution or Mount Pickett.
After Orcas, yeah, we were thinking this would be fun. It looked beautiful. We were going out there to hang with friends.
Right.
And we weren't, I mean, honestly, we were in better shape overall, but I think between Orcas and Austin, maybe we swam. Did you swim once, Addison?
In between.
Yeah. I don't
can't
think you
remember.
did.
I don't think we did.
I don't
No,
think
I didn't.
neither of you guys
Yeah,
did.
I didn't. No.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the challenges to overcome as a team is like you guys not swimming before races. But yeah, so let's turn this into like a Odyssey infomercial a little bit. Like, so obviously the courses are very different. How do you think Orcas prepared you for a race like Austin? Was it just sort of like the totality of the experience of Orcas that where you're like, all right, I kind of have my sea legs, understand what swim run, sort of the mechanics of it. Do you think that's what led to you having more fun and having a really great result at Austin, or do you think it was something else?
I think Orcas definitely helped us become more efficient, right? Like we had trained together, but we'd done some kind of race specific type training. But once you're out on the course, it was a whole different experience. I think it helped us communicate better because when we're just training, we're chatting, right? Like we weren't racing. And I think Orcas was part of it was just understanding like how I felt versus how Addison felt, and kind of keeping ourselves in check, knowing it was going to be a long day. Like, I don't know the last time I did 7 hours of anything before Orcas, right? So it had been a minute and we just, chatted, but it was also kind of like interesting to like knowing that we were weak swimmers. Orcas really helped us kind of define and fine tune our strategy for any future races. Like we couldn't get caught up in teams that would pass us on the swim and then immediately like start running hard so that we could catch up with them. We knew over the course of a day that we would catch up with people, honestly, from just running. And that as long as we didn't blow up on the first half, which I'll be honest, you guys did an amazing job prepping us for all of these kinds of strategies and helping us understand, partially because our our swim and how weak it is. And so we took a lot to heart from both racing together, but also just listening to you guys, listening to the course previews. Also, since you had done races before, telling us, understanding how you felt afterwards, things like that.
Yeah, I'll be curious to hear what you guys think, but I remember the first few swim that Chris and I did, like that learning curve. You feel like as the race is going on, you feel way smarter about, you're like, okay, I'm getting a hang of this finally. And even if you are practicing transitions in your practice, there's something about doing it during the race and executing it during the race that I feel like the learning curve, you just pick it up super quick. It's kind of that on the job sort of training. Did you guys feel that way as well at Orcas?
Yeah. I mean, there was a high. Like I still remember, like, obviously the first run was painful, but then jumping in the ocean. And then when we came out of the ocean spot, Addison had the biggest shitting grin ever. He was like, oh my God, this is amazing. He was so excited.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, we thought the water was going to be colder at that point. Yeah, it definitely got colder. But, part of it also, like where we train, we literally trained on the same thing, right? Like it was always the same swim.
Yeah.
Just different loops. And the runs, there wasn't that much variation. And so that was something else that we kind of learned how to do a little bit better too, is like navigating different kinds of terrain.
Sure. And because like every race is different, it's almost like you can't just throw on like an Olympic training program or something, Olympic training program. You need to actually like, it's a swim heavy, run heavy, something like Orcas, where there's just tons of climbing. Or something like Austin where, the running gets pretty technical and you really have to be sure-footed and stuff like that. Each race presents its own unique thing, which I think, Addison, with your sort of adventure racing experience, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that helped you kind of like feel the juice of swim run because it's like a mini adventure race that you're just doing with a partner.
Yeah, absolutely. So John mentioned this, but we've taken a lot of cues from the Low Tide Boys, little things like, I know you just had the paddle episode where, the hieroglyphics on the paddles, those little things, I didn't realize how important the little things were. So I think both John and I wear earplugs, and little things like, taking an earplug out so that we can hear each other. And like where, is it a silicone earplug or is it tethered? And where do I tuck it? It's like very small things, regulating your temperature. So like, how much do you unzip the wetsuit? Those were the things I think that over the course of a race, like initially you may not be thinking of it, but you get into that rhythm. So I felt like by Austin, we just had a much better rhythm with those little things. So we knew what we were communicating as we got into the water. I would look down, shout out the distance. And so we knew approximately how far we were going, how long we were going to be in the water. And then we were checking in with each other, almost like belay climbers. Like, do you have your earplugs in? Do you have your goggles on?
Yeah.
Are your paddles ready? And we're still at the point in our swim run careers where we need those little reminders. But I think that's something that we definitely improved upon from the first race to our second one. And I think that helped us become more efficient in those transitions.
Another thing that we also learned is for the first one, we were both prepared with everything, right? Like both of us had like extra goggles and whatnot, or like all the different things. And we realized for the second one that we don't need two of everything, I think. And also like in terms of like the hieroglyphics and writing on the paddle, I didn't bother the second time because Addison's ahead of me the whole race. Like there's the only points you'll see me in front of Addison, and this is Addison loves
like
this, is if there's a camera. So when you look at our pictures, it always looks like I'm the one ahead. Like there's each race, there's a point where I had my hand on his back and it looks like I'm helping him. When it was all like, bait and switch. Like I was behind him the whole time, except for that point. So transitions, it's hard to really do a good replication of transitions during training. So the first one, we were really good. And we learned from you guys. You can lose a lot of time if you spend time at the aid stations and things like that. And there was only a couple times where Addison forgot that I was his partner and started to go off while I was still in the water. You know?
That's right.
Dragging you up the side of the hill.
That's right.
Stop.
Going back to what I had said before about my, some of my own flaws in racing, that I can get like too intense and then I lose sight of some of those little things, and nutrition being the biggest one. And so it's just like, I think being part of in a partner sport is, you know, like we have those check-ins, like, hey, are you taking fluids? Am I taking fluids? Like, let's make sure we slow down, do the things right. And so that was something I think we did a much better job for at the Austin race.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was more important there too, right?
Yeah.
Because of the heat.
It's
but
much hotter, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is the hard part about Orcas is when you're really cold, you sometimes forget to take in nutrition, right? And that was a long, long day. So there was definitely some cramping happening at that one. But Austin was interesting because compared to Orcas at Austin, we knew that Addison was most likely going to use one of those cups to quickly get something. And I was going to fill up like an actual bottle, like a
flask or something.
Flask. Yeah, exactly. And so I typically know to fill it up, even if I don't necessarily need it at that point. Because if we're running over 2 miles, I know that I'm going to want something to drink, and I overheat pretty quickly. And so, that we figured a lot of that out. We also figured out some of the goos and kind of the food stuff, because for Orcas we had everything packed in. I had like a belt actually that had all the stuff.
You had a Batman like utility belt thing.
Yeah, and that was just overkill.
Bunch
and
of
so for Austin, we knew. Yeah,
dangly things hanging.
Should have given some of that stuff to Chipper.
Yeah, I should have just waited for you, just sitting on some log for John to pass by to save me. Pry me out of the depths,
like the Easter Bunny. Just
that actually makes me wonder: has there ever been a situation where 2 teams are racing and 2 people are having a tough day, so they just switch partners? Like all of a sudden, I'm like tethered to Chipper.
That's like
and Addison and Chris are gone.
Bait. Yeah, just cut bait.
Okay, now there's the team dead weight.
John, sorry.
The feeling good guys are going off.
Good guys.
Yeah, Chris and I considered that. Like we were hanging tough with you guys for like, you know, the first couple transitions, and we were like, man, this is my chance. I could just
just like switch the tether.
It's like, we have 3 people on our now. And then John, I don't know. John's first one to line at the pizza oven again.
So I will say I'm just gonna say I'm surprised, not for Addison. I'm surprised that John, you essentially were like, yeah, let's keep doing these. I honestly thought after Austin, you're like, all right, I understand what swim running is all about, but you guys were signed up for Catalina as well, which is interesting. If you think so, they're like, all right, last year's going to be the year of swim run. So you sign up for basically the 2 of the 3 hardest races in America. You sign up for Orcas Island, probably like 1 or 2 in terms of difficulty. And then Catalina, which again, I would say like the 3 hardest races. It's kind of hard to say, but I would say it's like Casco, Orcas, and Catalina.
So, they're
with like honorable
top.
mention is Swimrun NC, which we haven't done, but it looks super hard in terms of just like the course or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you sign up for these super hard races and you do a long course, because why the hell not? If you're going to go that way, Catalina gets canceled. You do Austin, but I thought you were going to be done. I know Addison still, he wants to keep doing these, but now you guys are signed up for Swimrun Lake James.
And I have no idea why. I have no idea why we signed up.
Well, you have to explain it because I asked the question, so you got to give me some.
Well, I'll be honest. Like
Austin took a little bit of convincing. I was ready for it. I was like, I'm in, and John's like, "Are you sure?"
I think the heat scared John a little bit.
What do you think?
Did the heat worry you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, training in Colorado over the summer was interesting. Like,
that's brutal.
Addison would literally not unzip, and I'd have everything off. Like I wouldn't have the cap on, and I could not understand how he was so comfortable and still dropping me.
It takes me back to my wrestling days.
Yeah.
Training in my sauna suit.
Weight,
running on a treadmill in the sauna. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on a tropical island that was, 90% humidity. I should be getting better at this, but I think part of it is
neoprene then, though.
I mean, that's honestly,
I never did run on neoprene. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's like saying, I was also born in a tropical island. That doesn't mean I don't sweat, Or like if you're born in Alaska, it doesn't mean you don't get cold.
That's true.
Touche.
Just saying.
So the Kanchō Bōyz will be at Swimrun Lake James.
Yeah. So who convinced whom? Because honestly, usually I'm doing a lot of convincing, but I was surprised.
Think it wasn't even on Addison's radar because I don't think we were planning. Well, to be honest, Catalina's was happening at the initially, right. And so Addison had to find a new partner because obviously when the date changed, I had a conflict, and so Addison was about to have his fastest race ever with Joe from Missouri.
Wait. This is Swimrun. This is great Swimrun community stuff. It's like Joe from Missouri who was staying at the same little
compound that we
like the Scorpion Motel at the Bible camp, like around the corner, and we were just like chatting him up.
Yeah. And he came out, and we were all comparing pool buoys. Out there for the night before, and then Jeff from down the way came out as well.
Jeff Emanuel.
We had a bunch of folks come through, but so Addison hooked up with him for Catalina, and John has already committed. You're running the LA Marathon, but also you're part of this organization called Keen, and you're pushing somebody for the whole marathon. So give us some more. We want to dive into this a little bit. Let's hear about this.
So I'll give you the quick spiel. I'm involved with the nonprofit called Kids Enjoy Exercise Now. So take the letters equals Keen. And we have historically participated in the LA Marathon. In 2022, we're doing it to honor a staff member who passed away during 2021. And so it's really emotional for the group. And this year I'm pushing a race chair where the executive director of the New York chapter, who is in a wheelchair, her and I are going to be doing this adventure together. And so that's why I wasn't going to be able to do the Catalina's new date.
It was on the same day.
On March.
It was on exactly. And so if they had been like Saturday, Sunday, that might have been a different conversation. We might have tried to pull it off.
Dude, you would have been blasted on Sunday. You would have been torched.
Yeah. I mean, and I've done fun stuff like that before. I just, it's all about adjusting expectations, right? Like I'm old enough to know what I'm capable of usually.
And what you're not.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So there's that. And I don't know if you want me to jump into the Lake James part, but also, I'm pretty excited because I'll be honest, a lot of these things I do, Chris is one of my best friends in the world. I've been following his journey, and it's an opportunity to hang out. Like that's really what it comes down to for me, is hanging out with good people. And I like Texas.
I don't think we would be doing this if we didn't have friends like you that we could share these adventures with.
Aww.
Wow. This is getting so much feelings going around.
This is like Partners Month is great. Partners Month is great.
Also, Chris is running.
Yes.
So the LA Marathon as well.
So pretty much as soon,
teaming up with John.
I think the day after Catalina got canceled, I'm like, hey buddy, do you think you have an extra bib? So I may be pushing someone in a chair as well, or I'll be helping John push someone in a chair, which will be pretty cool. So. Yeah, road marathon. I wasn't thinking I was going to do one in the spring.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
Yeah,
and I'm still going to Catalina.
Yeah. By the way, John and I are fundraising, so shameless plug. You can support our efforts.
Yeah, raise money. Yeah, for the Keen organization.
Yeah,
and then I think Catalina getting nixed this year was a catalyst for the Lake James entry.
100%.
Yeah,
well, yeah. I knew. It's funny. Like. I don't know how I'm going to train for this one. It's basically a month after the LA Marathon. There's no swimming happening right now for me. I don't have the hall pass to go into gyms basically. So I guess I could go see Addison, who does swim at an outdoor pool.
You could do that.
You could get hearted like Addison. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the pool's heated, by the way. I'm sure
it is. It is heated. Yeah. So John, I'll just do all the swim training. You just train for your marathon, and then collectively we'll have one good swim run athlete.
Yeah, it's like Voltron or something. All the pieces come together to form like a super.
That's how it works,
team.
Right? It's just additive.
Yeah. Well, there's also these things called stretch cords, which you could fake it in your garage. pretty good for the lats and stuff. But yeah, so you guys are doing Lake James, which is a really fun course. We will be doing a course preview on that at some point after Partners Month, so you have some extra intel there. But what are you guys thinking after Lake James? We have more swim runs. You guys going to do like the granddaddy of them all, Casco Bay?
Ooh, in Portland, Maine.
It's a lot of swimming though. Just warning you. You probably need to train for that one.
Yeah, John's looking
I
less
don't
than
know.
enthused right
Like,
now.
I mean, I'm wearing a neoprene suit. I can float. That's true. I have a pull buoy.
Yeah.
Just kind of. I'll be honest. It's like every race that we've done so far. Orcas, we signed up for a little bit with some time to train. Austin was kind of a last minute sign up. Lake James, I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know why we signed up. I think we just got really excited that, oh my gosh, you guys are not going to be able to do Catalina, so I can still do one with you guys.
I think that was a big part of it too. It feels
that
like,
really was. And the other part is I don't know what my schedule is going to look like the second half of the year. And so I know that this will fit in with my schedule. And another fun thing is in my awesome training, I'm probably going to show up a few days early to go mountain biking in Asheville, and maybe do some trail running for fun.
Or you can swim.
Just don't sprint. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to, but
I don't want to throw you out of your rhythm.
Yeah, it's almost like John has like a finite amount of like swimming capacity, and he's just trying to save it.
He's got like 8,000 yards in a shoulder a month.
Yeah,
and you don't want to blow it.
So I'll just save it for the race.
Got it. Save it.
He's like a pitcher. He's like a pitcher.
Yeah. He's only got a certain amount of innings in that arm. Those shoulders there.
Awesome. Awesome.
On the other hand, I was taking Catalina pretty seriously because I haven't done any serious swim training for a while. So I joined a local gym and where they have masters classes, and I'm on the swimming regimen now. And so I'm determined to get better. I think not only for swim run, but just it's a nice winter activity and something, when we can't get out on the trails or for running or biking. So I've embraced it a little bit. It's outside of my comfort zone, but I've enjoyed it.
Can I jump in for just a sec? Because I'm really happy that Addison's really stepped it up. But one thing we did not mention about Joe is Joe was a sandbagger. So the day before the race, Joe joined Addison for like a 2-mile run, and Addison comes back. He's like, "Yeah, I just ran with this guy for a little bit. He was going real slow." The next day, we're doing the race. Joe is like 10 minutes ahead of us. And so I think part of it is Addison realizes Joe can really swim. Joe is a swimmer.
You got to step it up for Joe.
So Addison's used to being
like
alpha male. He's used to pulling me along. Now he has to kind of, make sure he can, do his thing.
Well, I will say, like, after we did Chipper and I did Catalina back in, when was that, 2020? Like, right after that race, like, I just got so super stoked on the sport that I was like, what I need to do is I need to become a way better swimmer. And I just sort of committed to it, like, right then and there. And it sounds like Addison's probably like a similar experience. Like, you did it, you had fun, and you realize, like, the way to do this better, you got to work on your deficiencies, right? And, you swim and run. I mean, that's all you got to do.
There was also, I did also have a definitive mental commitment of, like, you can't, triathlon, you're like, okay, whatever. It's just the first part. And then let me get to the bike and I'll just hammer. Yeah. That's like how the triathlon goes for most triathletes, unless you like swim in college.
Yeah, survive the swim.
But here, like the sport's it starts with the word swim. And I'm like, okay, so people are going to think that you're a swimmer. So you better start acting like one. And swimmers swim a lot. So this is what you need to start doing. This is what Chipper was telling himself.
Swimmers swim. Just put that on.
Yeah, swimmers swim.
That's the same the thought process that I went through. I'm like, well, if this is the sport that I'm going to be doing, I might as well be good at swimming.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something, I'm everyone who listens to the show regularly knows I mention this all the time. I think if the whole experience is to try to get into that flow state where you're moving seamlessly through nature, like the fitter you are and the better swim fitness in general that you have, like the more fun it becomes because the swims become less of an ordeal and more of just like a challenge. You know, you're not like surviving like the mile swim. You're just like, all right, let's see what we're made of on this thing and then move on. Like the running is usually, depending on the course, I mean, the running can be challenging for people, but I think for the most part, swimming is the thing that fills people with trepidation, and there is something you can do about that, which is swim.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Practice.
if being passed multiple times in the water by a woman with one paddle isn't enough to motivate me to swim, though, I don't know. I don't know what will.
Well,
that's what happened at Austin
special.
Over and over again.
You're special.
Well, John, we sent you the link to the stretch cords.
Yes.
With the paddles. I honestly, and we've had people who know more than us, which are swim coaches, and they're like, if you just did this dry land stuff only, it would get you a certain, you're not going to be like a dolphin or anything, but it'll probably help, especially if you're not able to get in at all.
Yeah.
With like 10 feet of snow around or whatever's going on.
I might just buy you some and send them to you. I just said that on air, but whatever. Anyway, any hoodle. So you guys got Lake James coming up. That's awesome. We're stoked to see you guys there. We want to thank you two for coming on for Partners Month, introducing everyone to the Kanchō Bōyz, who, like I said at the beginning, I feel like this is the perfect example on how, like, the mission of our show was to introduce people to sport and sort of demystify it. And I think it's a mission accomplished, Chipper.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Kanchō Bōyz are a great example of a newcomer team to the world of swimrun. And last week we had a veteran team that has probably done 25 swim runs, starting for the last 6 or 7 years with Mr. and Mrs. B, the Langfords there. So we're trying to hit all sides of the spectrum, and appreciate you guys coming on, taking the time out of your day.
But I don't know when this is gonna go out there, but first of all, we should have led with this, but congratulations, guys. Like, you're going to Sweden.
That is
and
true.
So
Thank you.
It's been interesting following your journey.
Congrats.
That's the first one. Like, I'm super stoked for you guys. I have no desire, and so maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll go watch.
There
exactly.
is a spectator boat apparently.
That does have 10K of swimming, which is 6 miles, John.
Yeah, no, that's the only. It's got to be downstream if I'm going to do that. The second thing is people might be really confused right now because they're like, "Oh, these guys, John Brandershort and Addison Nuding are Team Kanchō Bōyz," which Kancho's Japanese, and people are like, "Wait, what? Why are they naming this?" So, just FYI, it's John Hayato Brandershort. So. I'm half Japanese. I grew up there. And that's kind of the connection, by the way, to why we chose Kanchō Bōyz. It will be really weird if we ever race a swim run in Japan.
Well, what I love is that, so the discussion of the name, this was on this thread that we were on, and we were trying to figure out what the name should be. Yeah. And when we figured out, so we should just explain. So Kancho means low tide in Japanese, but also has another meaning, which I'll let John explain.
So I'm wearing the shirt right now. So, in Japanese or Chinese, actually, also there's characters. And so these two characters specifically mean low tide. But in Japan, if you ever say the word Kancho, growing up, like, oh man,
just say it.
I don't think your mom's
it's basically
listening.
When you stick your fingers up somebody's butt, like an enema,
like as a prank,
as a prank, right? Yeah. So
exactly. Joking around with the guys.
And so really just hanging out, and so that's what a Kancho is. And so that's what was so funny about realizing that this
it was instant.
Also,
it was like, you guys have to be I'm making shirts.
Yeah.
That's nice. How that happened, which is great.
Yeah. So when thinking about our swim run partnership, I was like, John, let's go with the first one, which means low tide, and we'll just forget about the second one.
The second meaning.
Yeah, and if people figure it out, good for them.
Yeah. Oh, you'll know when they figure it out.
Just keep them confused. Yeah. Introducing the Kanchō Bōyz, everyone starts like backing away.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not turning their backs to you.
Well,
I think on that note, we should probably wrap this up.
I don't know how we're topping that. That's
Kancho out.
Yeah. They're gone. John, Addison, thank
you guys.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks
See you at
again.
Lake
We'll see you
James.
guys soon in Lake James.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. See you in April.
All right.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Sign up for our newsletter at lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for the show or questions for us, send us a DM or an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of all our swim run activities, podcast, and other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff.
Other
way
stuff.
Way to keep it PG. Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim,
Go for a run,
then another swim,
then another run,
and then another swim.
and then another run.
And then just keep going until you're done.
So you're done. Or maybe can't
And then
stop, won't
stop.
stop.